This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Thursday, April the 25th, 2024. We're so glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later on in the program, I'll talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig to get his reactions on the latest information from the EPA on E15, and we'll also now take a look at the closing markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, we're at the end of another trading day, and it's time to talk with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net on this Thursday. And Curt, it was kind of a hard start for the grains, and they kind of faced it most of the day. What did we see coming out of that market today?
Well, we held together fairly well. We saw the Wednesday rally be sold and had a down and dirty Thursday for the most part, and that was typical in the bean trade, but had a little reversal down in corn and beans, but we were able to see corn kind of reverse back up and beans held where they needed to hold. So see what we get. News-wise, kind of skinny. We had light frost through here. We've had some beans up. They survived last weekend, and see if they survived here the overnight. But over in Europe, frost freeze in Europe, the rapeseed crop and barley might have gotten dinged a little bit. It's going to take about 10 days to kind of sort that out in Europe. Then, too, South America, seen a little bit more of a downgrade in production due to weather concerns, disease, bugs, and varmints, and everything else. So I gave the market a little stability throughout the day here. This morning's weekly export sales report, we saw corn sales come in above trade expectations of 51 million bushels, and that kind of helps support the corn market. Bean sales, however, over 7.7 million bushels, and that was below trade expectations. So that kind of flipped the spread back, buying corn, selling beans, buying wheat, selling beans throughout the session here. We've got options coming due here on Friday. The puts and calls go off. We'll see open interest go down in the May futures positions once we get past Friday, because a lot of those puts and calls do match up with futures positions. So we're seeing that continue to be squared away here. May corn particularly lost ground to July corn, as we've seen rolling positions into the July. That's taking place. Basis contracts coming due in through here. And that's being squared away here ahead of next week. Next Tuesday is first notice day on the May futures contracts. So if you're long, you probably need to do something with those by next Monday, or you can be subject to delivery. I don't expect a whole lot of deliveries, but you just never know. Did see a pickup in cash bids here this week with the rally. Guys have not been really marking a whole lot of grain. I noticed that particularly the ethanol side and some of these feed guys have had to push the bid a little here to shake some grain loose. So if you still have some old crop, you might want to check around and kind of see where we are with your bids. Going in midday here, the commodity funds bought 2,300 contracts of wheat, 3,100 contracts of corn. They sold about 3,400 contracts of beans, 2,900 contracts of meal, about 2,100 contracts of soybean oil. So not a heavy day volume-wise, just kind of zigging and zagging in through here. As we know, this coming weekend, guys are really pushing it hard. We've got a fairly good moisture producer, and that southern third of the U.S. expected to receive about 2 to 3 inches of rain. So, yeah, we'd like a little rain, but just not all at once, Dustin.
All right, moving over to the livestock side of things. I know cattle and hogs had a really rough day yesterday. Did that continue, or were they able to find some traction today?
A little spread activity. Fast, we're able to come in here and bounce back two and a half bucks. Feeders were up $1.90, $2.15. The hogs took it on the chin, down $2.05, $2.50 after that gap and go move there and giddy up. We kind of pulled in the reins in through here. Pork cutouts hanging in there. Beef cutouts kind of slipped a little bit. But when you look at the beef sector, cattle and feed, we're looking at lower numbers, but yet we're still looking at some heavier weights. Guys continue to feed just a little heavier in through here. And the bird flu news for both grains and the livestock's kind of quiet for right now. So we'll see if anything gets stirred up. I think all the focus has moved to the political side here, to universities and protests, and taking the emphasis off here short term on the bird flu. Cookouts approaching here, 80 degrees here next week, so bring it on.
All right, Curt. Well, if folks want to pick your brains there at agmarket.net, what's the best way for them to get in touch with all of you?
1-800-779-1515, agmarket.net. Click on Intel. We've got our marketing team. They put some catch-up strategies on that Intel section there. So if you're interested in some marketing ideas on grains and even livestock, go there, Dustin.
All right. Well, Curt, thanks so much for the insight. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Very good. Take care.
That again was Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen.
May corn was up 3 1/4 at $4.41 even. Soybeans were down 3 1/4 at $11.62 3/4. Soy meal down $2.10 at $3.43.90. Soy oil was up 16 cents at $44.82. Chicago wheat up 7 3/4 at $6.02 1/4. Kansas wheat 7 3/4 cents higher at $6.32 even. Minneapolis spring wheat up 12 cents at $6.91 even, and oats unchanged at $3.67. June live cattle were $2.55 higher at $177.80. May feeders up $2.15 at $246.25. Lean hogs for May down $2.07 at $95.27. Pork cutouts unchanged at $105.25. And Class 3 milk was up 42 cents at $18.20.
And that was a check of your closing market recap. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we sit down with Ag Secretary Mike Naig. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM/PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. We know about the saga about 8 Midwestern states trying to get E15 year-round, and Governor Kim Reynolds was a big part of getting that initiative drawn up. What should have been a 60-day return from EPA turned into a 600-day return from the EPA, and then they pushed it off until 2025. Well, EPA finally decided to avoid the possibility of legislation coming through Congress and granted those 8 Midwestern states the chance to do it now already. We talked with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig about what this means and get his reaction. Before we get into planting and all that, we got a big announcement Friday. We know about the battle we've been waging for 2 years now about trying to get E15 year-round, and in 8 Midwestern states, Governor Reynolds was very instrumental in getting that done. But then EPA finally got around to it, then said, hey, let's wait till 2025 to start, and that irked us all even a little more. And so now there was some chances of legislation going on to get it done, but EPA kind of just relented finally on Friday. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we did finally have that emergency waiver that was granted to allow E15 usage during the summer fueling season. And, again, this comes with it's good news, bad news, right? We needed it. We wanted it. Many of us have been asking for it. But it also just underscores how we continue to seek that national solution. We don't have that national year-round access to E15 solution that we want. It's a little frustrating. So look, this is a team effort on the part of Iowa elected officials and industry leaders, Governor Reynolds, Attorney General Byrd, myself, the whole delegation pushing hard to try to get to a solution here. And the work just continues. But, maybe the thing that frustrates me most is that we see the benefit here. Iowans set a record for E15 usage last year. In fact, it was up 50%. And the number that, I think should be important to all of us is that saved Iowans nearly $38 million in terms of the cost at the pump, meaning E15 was cheaper than the alternatives that they would see. Now, we look at that and say, my goodness, why wouldn't we want everybody to have access to that kind of fuel and that kind of savings. Oh, and by the way, beyond, we're talking E15, and many of us would love to see pushing beyond to things like E30. But meanwhile, we're still trying to achieve this nationwide solution. But, for the time being, we'll take that emergency waiver. It's certainly needed. It was certainly justified, and we'll continue to work for that national solution.
And it's kind of frustrating. We had a national solution back in, was it 2019? We got it year round. Of course, the courts in D.C. blocked it. We know why they blocked it. So really, it shouldn't be that hard for EPA to just go and say, hey, let's fix that hole that we saw that the court was able to shoot down, and let's get it fixed and put it right back out there. And, I asked Secretary Vilsack earlier this year, too, like, why do we keep putting a Band-Aid on something that clearly needs to be stitched?
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. That's what I would say. I mean, there's many ways to achieve this, and we just flat out don't have we don't have an administration that wants to do that. And they'll talk a good game. They'll say they're supportive, but really, let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's see that national year-round solution that, again, we know would benefit. Look, also, it's good for certainly farmers from a market standpoint. It's good for an industry from a economic development and job standpoint. It's good for consumers. But look at the world today. We've got a very uneasy world, and think about that, what that means in terms of energy availability, and the importance of energy independence. That's a national security issue. And I think every now and then we have to be reminded of that this is not just about a great marketplace, but it's also about our nation's security. And we ought to be thinking about all of those components when it comes to this policy. Let's get it right, for goodness sake.
And that, again, was Iowa Agriculture Secretary Mike Naig. We'll hear from him coming up later on this week. And that's been a check of your news here on Ag Matters PM, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our stuff online at iowaagnet.com, as well as on Facebook, Twitter, and on our YouTube channel. While you're there, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we put out new video projects. Also, don't forget about our free market podcasts that come out 3 times a day, free of charge, with market analysis straight to your mobile device. We got the openings, the middays, and the closings all available through Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Google, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Andy Peterson, Mark Magnuson, and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.